The Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our Americas, ALBA-TCP, held an extraordinary meeting on Wednesday to denounce attempted coup d'etat in Bolivia. The governments of Venezuela and China agreed to promote bilateral relations in tourism, education, industry, and technology. And in Palestine, the Israeli occupation committed 4 massacres in the Gaza Strip, leaving at least 52 Palestinians killed. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our Americas, ALBA-TCP, held an extraordinary meeting on Wednesday to denounce the attempted coup d'etat in Bolivia. During the meeting, the president of Bolivia, Luis Arce, highlighted the spontaneous reaction of the citizens to defend democracy and social organizations during the coup acts in Murillo Square. He also rejected the military repression of the popular resistance that left 14 people wounded by firearms. In this regard, he detailed that the Bolivian justice has ordered administrative measures and house arrest in accordance with what is established by law. For their part, the members of the alliance expressed their unconditional support for the government of Bolivia President Luis Arce, while rejecting the advance of the ultra-right in the region.
Disinformation and well-orchestrated campaigns seek to erode confidence in the legitimate and constitutional government through fake news. The right-wing and conservative nationalism seek to impose the matrix that it was not a coup, it was a self-coup. As they imposed the narrative that it was not a coup but a fraud to justify the overthrow of the then-President Evo Morales in 2019. In this sense, it is fundamental to recover the democratic values of the rule of law and to reject the fundamentalism and warlordism that lead us. We categorically reject the narrative that there was no military coup d'etat. Those who promote this narrative nationally and internationally represent interests that are distant from the interests of the government and the plurinational state of Bolivia and the Bolivian people themselves, promoting the installation of a fascist government in our continent.
For his part, the president of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, said that if the ultra-right wing achieves its objectives in Latin America, peace will end and the persecution of social leaders will return. For this reason, he emphasized the need to protect the progressive governments of the region.
The ultra-right uses this polarization to attack popular governments by means of manipulation and deceit. They seek to hinder their policies of social development and the advances achieved as a result of decades of struggle of the people. If they achieve their objectives, there will be no calm times ahead. Repression and persecution of social leaders will come. There will come the atrocious neoliberalism, the surrender of natural resources to transnational corporations. New lost decades will come and the setback of all the advances in integration will be intensified. We see and know that a halt is possible if we continue to bet on unity with respect for diversity. Our peoples know it. This explains the spontaneous mobilization that immediately came to defend President Lucho, even though the lives of these people were at risk. A government of progressive and popular orientation must defend itself in tight unity against the powerful adversaries it brings with it. It is up to all of us to promote solidarity and cooperation in the region, complying strictly, directly or indirectly, in the affairs of attempts of any other state, but unhesitatingly supporting progressive governments.
Also, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, stated that the attempted coup d'etat in Bolivia was aimed at strengthening imperialism and the application of unequal economic policies in the region.
And when we have a democratically elected government, and this democratic government is progressive and anti-imperialist, whether by design or not, The actions of the coup perpetrators are actions designed to strengthen imperialism, to strengthen an unequal economic policy. Therefore,
fortalecer el imperialismo, para fortalecer una política económica desigual. Y no me sorprende, por lo tanto, que los gobiernos proimperialistas en todo
I am
el
not
mundo,
surprised that
incluyendo
pro-imperialist governments around the world, including in Latin America, applaud this coup. Fortunately,
afortunadamente, hay suficientes personas en Latinoamérica y en el mundo, y por supuesto en el ALBA, que se unen a la denuncia.
there are enough people in Latin America and the world and of course in ALBA who are united in denouncing this anti-democratic act and the violence inherent in a coup d'état.
President Nicolás Maduro denounced that violent actions were also being carried out in Venezuela with the support of Colombian paramilitaries and expressed his full support for Bolivia and ALBA-TCP.
What we are going to achieve, what the people is going to achieve is a great victory. They did it in the state of Táchira. They don't know us yet. We are plagued by Colombian paramilitarism. They want to generate violence. They wanted to take over Táchira and the rest of Venezuela. Violence here and violence there. Today it is a safe and peaceful state, and I can say from the state of Táchira to my brothers and sisters of ALBA, to receive all the support from the people of Venezuela, to the right road of ALBA. We are waging a battle where Bolivia has given an example of dignity and capacity to respond.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. All the stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. The governments of Venezuela and China agreed to promote bilateral relations in tourism, education, industry and technology. The agreements were signed in the framework of a meeting held between the governor of La Guaira State, José Alejandro Terán, the salt authority Marcos Melendez, and other delegates from the coast with representatives of China's Xi Jinping. The delegations discussed the development of growth and the special economic zone of the state of La Guaira and proposed the construction of the most modern water park in Latin America. The governor of La Guaira emphasized that the coast has all the conditions to reactivate its economy through these agreements in order to reinforce the growth of tourism.
In the areas of food production, technology development, science, and also of course the sea trade, because La Guaira has the main airport, and one of the main ports with the most developed technology in the country, and this of course makes us think about the maritime development industry.
The vice chairman of China's Jiangxi legislature, Liu Xian, said that both provinces and states cooperate for long-term investments on economic development.
And it has really found a lot of cooperation, which can be between Xinjia and La Guaira, in at least long-term investments, the water park. There is also mining, agriculture, all of that. All of that is part of the development that can be operated between both provinces and states.
The government of Venezuela offered details to the diplomatic corps accredited in the country about the electoral process of the next July 28th. In this regard, the Foreign Minister Ivan Gil highlighted the strength of the Venezuelan electoral system as a warranty of transparency, a characteristic that, in his opinion, places it among the most accurate systems in the world. This fact is being witnessed by the more than 635 international electoral envoyees attending the elections as observers. Likewise, the diplomat denounced before the international community the attacks and aggressions against the presidential candidate Nicolás Maduro and the Venezuelan people.
Our electoral system is a system in which we are also very proud to have it. An electoral system built to give the greatest possible transparency. I and all the electoral power and the government of Venezuela and the people of Venezuela are sure that it is perhaps the electoral system with or one of the most perfect electoral systems that exists on the face of the earth, any system that is based on popular elections.
Furthermore, the Venezuelan Foreign Minister Iván Gil denounced that the United States and Europe seek to undermine the electoral process of July 28th and distort the will of the people.
This government, as you all know very well, has been subjected to a policy of sanctions, a policy of aggression, a policy of 936 sanctions, that have so far gone to the heart of the government's work, harming the people. And this obviously limits or creates distortion in this government's ability to manage. Which it has managed to resolve, but we must denounce to the world that it is an election that is being interfered with by external agents, especially from the United States and Europe, who are trying to undermine the electoral process to distort the will of the people.
The election campaign continues in Venezuela. At the same time, hundreds of so-called electoral fairs have been set up across the country to get the citizens acquainted with the voting process. Our correspondent in Caracas, teleSUR, with the details.
The election campaign in the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela is continuing. Preparations are all over the town. Here we find ourselves in the western part of the capital city of Caracas, in the Park Ali Primera, and here are some stands organized for the citizens of Venezuela who are being informed about how to vote. This is called a so-called electoral fair, if you wish, and we have here the responsible person for this.
We take your fingerprints and then you pass to the electoral machine. The screen will show the candidates. The parties that are in our Venezuelan electoral system. You press on the face of the candidate or the party of your preference. Wait, press vote. Take your voucher or ballot, introduce it in the polling box, and well, that is the process. And we have here the protection of the military personnel.
According to the National Election Council, there are 81 different stands in the capital district. All over Venezuela, the number is 976. The council publishes the addresses of each of them to the public.
And then we give them this brochure, which shows how simple and transparent our elections are, with our candidates and information about our fair.
Escalante explains that if the citizen has made his or her mind up already politically, the entire voting process takes approximately 25 seconds only. She adds that citizens show great interest.
People of different ages come here daily, as from 18 years old, and we show them how the process in itself works. We are here all day long and for approximately another 15 days.
As you see, the process is quite transparent. It includes an electronic part and the paper part. It is known as one of the most progressive systems in all of Latin America, and citizens are being here taught how it works, what they have to do on the July 28 to cast their votes in the presidential elections in Venezuela.
Yunus Soner, teleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
Israeli occupation forces committed 4 massacres in the Gaza Strip during the last 24 hours, leaving at least 52 Palestinians killed. Health authorities also reported more than 200 civilians wounded, as authorities warned that both figures could be even higher, since many of the victims remain trapped under the rubble. Israeli troops continue to impede the entry of ambulances and civil defense teams to the targeted areas. According to the most recent health report, at least 38,295 Palestinians have been killed and another 88,241 injured since October 2023. On Wednesday, the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs denounced that the Gaza Strip is experiencing an unprecedented increase in the humanitarian crisis due to the constant bombardments perpetrated by the Israeli occupation army. In this regard, the United Nations agency criticized the new ground offensive carried out against the city of Khan Yunis, which caused the displacement of 250,000 Palestinians and aggravated the crisis in the region, besides destabilizing even more the aid flows. On the other hand, the statement also denounced that the constant aggressions against health facilities, counting nearly 453 attacks since October. The organization also informed that approximately 50,000 babies were born in the Palestinian enclave under traumatic and unhealthy conditions. The shortage of basic medicines and medical supplies is preventing the health staff in Gaza to attend properly to the sick and the injured, as it is evidenced by the testimony of this official from Doctors Without Borders Middle East section.
In orthopedic surgery, we're seeing people who are injured in bombings, in shootings, in drone attacks. We're seeing people who are living in such poor conditions that they're cooking on the floor and the stove will explode, and so you see a lot of children who are injured as a result of that and burned. We can't do that if we don't have our supplies. We can't do the surgery to take care of those people if we don't have the supplies, and we aren't going to operate without anesthesia.
We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. China launched an investigation into the European Union's restrictions on trade and investment imposed against Chinese companies. The action follows the request submitted by the Chinese Chamber of Commerce for the import and export of machinery and electronic products. The investigation will focus on wind and solar energy, security equipment, among other products, and must be completed before January 10, 2025. The sanctions allow countries of the European bloc to carry out prior reviews and surprise inspections of operations by Chinese companies. The President of Poland, Andrzej Duda, denied Ukraine's accession to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, as long as the Russian special military operation in that territory continues. The Polish president did not rule out an official invitation to Ukraine to join the bloc, even though for the time being there is no proposal approved by the leaders of the military bloc. Let us remember that Kyiv requested to join the multinational organization in 2022 since its territory is in conflict. This, despite the support and technical, economic and military assistance of several NATO member countries to the Ukrainian regime. On Wednesday, Russia's parliament approved a bill that would raise income taxes for the rich in a move to return to national projects. The legislation is a major change for the flat rate tax that was widely credited with improving revenue collections after it was introduced in 2001. In this sense, the bill would impose a 13% tax for incomes of up to 2.4 million rubles a year, equivalent to $27,500. For incomes over that amount, a steadily higher tax rate would apply, with a maximum rate of 22% for incomes exceeding 50 million rubles or $573,000. The bill was endorsed in the final third reading by the State Duma and hours later by the Federation Council. It must be now signed by President Vladimir Putin to become a law.
We really found consensus in those proposals to improve the tax system, based on the principle of fairness, as the President instructed us, based on the principle of stimulation. This is not a neutral tax system. This is a stimulating tax system, stimulating investment and the redistribution of funds from the richer to those who need government support. The most important thing is that these resources should be fairly allocated to the implementation of the tasks set by the President.
In Arles, France, the South African artist William Kentridge presented his musical The Great Yes, The Great No, a thought-provoking play that explores issues like the struggle against racial and political oppression and the topic of refugees.
With a mise-en-scène that evokes the most relevant problems of today, the play focuses on the conflict of racial and political despotisms, the refugees, and the place of art in these struggles, both in the past and the present. Inspired by real events based on the departure of many refugees seeking to escape from Vichy, France in 1941, the piece seeks to discover and recall all those transatlantic crossings of the 17th and the 18th centuries.
But it's about the journey, about the conflict on it, about the questions of colonialism, which are still present, so very present in the 1940s in the writings of Césaire and Fanon, but still very much in the air we're in today. What's the relationship of refugees to countries they go to? Who is the stranger you welcome to a house? Who is the stranger you keep at the door?
The author emphasizes that the journey is accompanied by 4 musicians, on piano, cello, percussion and accordion, to bring the history to life and captivate the audience. In addition, 7 performers singing in English, French and various South African dialects provide their brilliant voices to deliver the message.
The heart of the production is the singing of a chorus of 7 women singers and some other soloists, but primarily the engine room of the ship that takes us across the journey, but also that takes us down, not just laterally but vertically, finds a kind of a us, are the 7 remarkable singers that have come from Johannesburg, together with the rest of the cast to perform The Great Yes, The Great No.
William Kentridge's The Great Yes, The Great No is a walk presented for all audiences by the Luma Foundation in Arles, southern France, in collaboration with the Lyrical Festival of Aix-en-Provence.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.